Jaclyn, Tacoronte.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman Callis of the Committee of Contracts and the entire committee for the floor, including City Council Member Debbie Rose. My name is Jaclyn Tacoronte, and I'm a small business owner living in the greenest borough, Staten Island. In 2017, my marketing and public relations agency, JMT Media, applied for the coveted Minority Women Business Enterprise Certificate with the encouragement of Staten Island Borough Hall, Staten Island Economic Development Corporation, the Staten Island Chamber of Commerce, and the Small Business Development Center. I'm a proud Native American. After 9 months of an intense and vetted application process, it was truly a shock to find out that my application was denied. Not because I didn't have solid financial statements and not because of a lack of business acumen. I was denied simply because of my minority status. Currently in New York City legislation, the minority group term means Black Americans, Asian Americans, and Hispanic Americans. But what is a minority if it is not the indigenous Native Americans? The current poverty level for Native Americans is at 26%, while for the nation, the poverty rate is at 14%. With Native Americans having the lowest employment rate of any racial or ethnic group in the United States, economic development and the inclusion to bid and apply for city contracts is essential in creating economic growth for my borough and for my city. In the 2018 Making the Grade report that we referred to, the city spent more than $1.5 billion through contracts in 2018. MWBEs received only $102.5 million. That is less than 7%. Of this spending, Hispanic American-owned businesses and African Americans received less than 1% combined. Native Americans, 0. What's happening on paper is not happening in real life. We need to change the paper. This administration has done tireless work to diversify all facets of our great city, but diversity extends beyond 3 ethnic groups. There are others that also need to be recognized, and without Native Americans, the MWBE standard is incomplete for New York City. Native Americans share a painful history. While we can't rewrite the history, today you can change the history by changing the law to include this group who have been marginalized and impoverished. New York City is the strongest, most resilient city in the United States, and the inclusion of every race should never be omitted again. Thank you for your attention today.
Thank you. Next.
And then I had a quick question for Jaclyn, which is just, I noticed that some the guests that you are with are wearing items, and I'm curious if there's any cultural significance to the items that they are wearing.
So, you want to chat about your regalia and everything?
Absolutely.
Name for the record, and please,
Sure.
interested in learning more.
Jerry Greyhawk. I am of White Mountain and Chiricahua Apache, Southern Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Arawak ancestry. Proud Native American, proud New Yorker. And I am a co-founder and head singer of Red Storm Drum and Dance Troupe, Incorporated. Yes, had to put that in there. And of course, our standing with the, with the public and private sector is kind of blended. So there's no one more important to the other to us as well. And the cultural significance of what we have on now, my medicine bag, which carries significant items to me personally. The Jaclyn necklace, which is a part of my heritage as well, made out of turquoise, which is a sacred stone to my people. And the ribbon shirt that I wear is basically a blend of the old and new. See, if anyone's ever heard about the boarding school system, when many of our youth were taken from the tribes and taken and put into boarding schools, and a lot of our heritage and culture was kind of washed away, beaten away from us. And one of the things that they forbade us to do was to wear any kind of fringe on our outfits because it represented our freedom. So what the children did was they would save ribbons from presents that they would receive and strings from gift boxes and packages, and they would pin them onto their shirts as a kind of rebellious protest, and to show that they are proud Native Americans. And that tradition carried on into the mainstream Native society, where when we wear our ribbon shirts, it shows that we are proud Native Americans, and it shows that through everything, through the past and the painful history that we have, this is a reminder to stand strong and to show the people that we are still here. New York City, a very diverse, culturally huge city, but the indigenous culture is still overlooked. And we have to raise that awareness, not only through, of course, our teachings that we do as Red Storm, but also through allowing businesses that are Native American owned to prosper in this beautiful city, which we love so much. Because back home where we are, we're discriminated against because people have had their personal experiences with Native Americans, and it kind of made them discriminating, almost racist to that point. Whereas in New York, we can be just like everybody else. Yeah, and we can be whatever we want because the city allows us to be whatever we want and be proud of who we are, not just try to hide and be ashamed. This is why we came today and represented as well as we could. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to turn it over to the sponsor of this legislation, Councilmember Debbie Rose.
I just have a brief question for Mr. Tacoronte. Could you just tell us briefly how the impact of not being included as a minority in the MWBE, how it impacted your business?
Thank you, City Council Member Debbie Rose. So it's interesting, you know, the process for a city MWBE took us close to 9 months, whereas on a state level for an MWBE application to get vetted and approved took less than 3 months. And so on a city level, we haven't been able to apply under the auspice of MWBE because we don't qualify. We do qualify, however, for the WBE process. And we've gotten very close to about 3 different contracts, but the significant and economic impact has cost us close to $250,000 in 2018. And so that's significant for me as a small business owner because on Staten Island, we try to employ Staten Island college students. We try to keep the talent on Staten Island. I can certainly hire out and outsource outside of the island, but there's so much talent on Staten Island. And so we've missed that opportunity for 2018, close to $250,000. For 2019, though, you know, I'm a big believer. I'm always using this hashtag Farmer Jackie. I'm always planting seeds. So doing a lot of partnerships with SIEDC, with Borough Hall, and with City Council Member Debbie Rose's office, we've been able to secure other partnerships as not even necessarily a subcontractor of a subcontractor, but we've been able to secure partnerships on a larger scale. So we're barely hitting June, or we're towards the end of June. So we're, you know, looking forward to success for this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next steps of Farmer Jackie.
Thank you. One of the arguments early on was that there were not a significant number of Native American businesses. Was that not so?
So back in 2017, I had hosted a meeting at another small business owner office space, Kevin Lowry that owns Launchpads. And I had requested small business SBS, Debbie Rose attended. We also had my attorney, Julianne Verdi. We also had a representative from the mayor's office, Moy Barnes. And we also had the disparity report consultants number on hand because I really wanted to understand why the numbers and the data were not reflected accurately. And to my amazement, unfortunately, a lot of the information was presented and the findings were based off of Dun & Bradstreet reporting. And so that's a significant piece of information because a lot of small businesses, when they first start out, they do not apply for just to have the basic verification of Dun & Bradstreet. There's a lot of hurdles your first few years of opening a small business. I'm in my 4th year. And so you learn over time that you do need to have your verification, your Dun & Bradstreet information. You need to be verified because unfortunately, if you haven't had that verification in the past 7 years, you're not going to be in the analytics that were part of the disparity report. So respectfully, the disparity report that was presented in May of 2018 that was published, unfortunately is still inaccurate, even though it's the most recent report. And so my goal here today is that the outreach and communication efforts between the administration and city council members and all of the different agencies at hand, that they're effectively targeting specific small businesses and minority ethnic groups.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie Rose.
I just want to say to the gentleman, oftentimes things are done and it has unintentional, outcomes. I'm really proud to be able to say that we're going to try to correct those unintentional, negative impacts that you've suffered. So I thank you for being here and giving voice to what the impact was, and looking forward to, a better outcome.
Thank you very much. I wanted to.
Sorry, I want to follow up on what Jaclyn was saying. So if the city's currently, if the vendor that the city is currently using, and as we put out an RFP and may have already done so for a new vendor or the same vendor to come back, if it's not done in Bradstreet and we do want to properly capture the real number of Native Americans who should be Native American MWBE businesses or businesses that could be MWBs, what is a better measure?
That's a very hard question to answer, because unfortunately I do not work on the city administration side to understand what resources are fully available. But I do know, in speaking with SBS, SIEDC, Chamber of Commerce, Debbie Rose's office, clearly there's analytics that are available, and that may be something that another consultant, or based on the RFP, I know that there's a chief diversity officer position that the city has been looking for to really assess and review all of the findings and application for each of the boroughs and each of the agencies. So unfortunately, Chairman, I wouldn't be able to answer that because I don't know where all the analytics currently are at and where the metrics begin and where they're ending.
So I'm a big believer in resident drafted legislation and crowdsourcing as it is, and believing that a lot of the knowledge is not on this side of the dais, but on the other side. So I guess to just pull from my own experience as a Jewish person, we have I just Googled, there's the Orthodox Jewish Chamber of Commerce. I know there's an Israel Chamber of Commerce. Do the Native American communities have a Chamber of Commerce, or are there places where, if Native Americans are interested in doing business to business? And I think the thing is, I'm concerned that we as a city, if we've been relying on Dun & Bradstreet, don't even know where to look. And sadly, I don't think we have a Native American elected into government, and I don't know about your representation. There will be 36 seats open in 2021, and we need to have at least 26 women on the city council. But
more than 21. I like that.
that's the adequate representation. Women outnumber men in the city. So I guess, are there resources you might know of that we can bring to the attention of the city, and if there's resources you've heard of or what have you that we can tell the city we should subscribe to with our $94 billion budget?
So in the past, thank you. That's a very valid question. And I'm sad to say that in the past 2 years and going through this entire process, there's 2 organizations that are focused more primarily on arts and culture programming, as opposed to business advocacy and education and outreach. There is the Smithsonian affiliates, the Museum of Natural History or Native American History. In reaching out to them to attend today's hearing, they're excited to hear, but they only have information on archives. Unfortunately, my tribe is Lapon Apache, and there's only 5,000 left of us in the United States. So, Chairman, you're staring at a unicorn right now. But to be very candid and honest, there is the Staten Island Chamber of Commerce, and each borough has their Chamber of Commerce, but there is not a dedicated New York City Native American Chamber of Commerce. And I think for a variety of reasons, there's lack of information, lack of resources, but on a national level, there are Native American Chamber of Commerce and organizations and associations, but they're primarily in New Mexico, Arizona, and in Ponca City, Oklahoma, where I just went to visit last year.
To the extent that the Small Business Services and the Mayor's Office for MWBE have a mandate to be doing outreach, I know that as the Contracts Committee would be happy to partner with you, and to the extent our Councilmember Debbie Rose, to try to host events. And to be honest, I've hosted events where we have 1,600 people show up. More often we have 30 people, and sometimes I've had 5 people show up. But you do it, you keep doing it, the word eventually gets out, and one day it goes from 3 to several hundred or thousand. So if you can give us a date that would work for you, would be interested in organizing, whether you want to do it on Staten Island in the great county of Richmond or anywhere else. We will do it wherever you wish.
Thank you so much, Chairman.